Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Hello, welcome inside another edition. It is the Bmore Baseball Podcast. He's, of course, Mike Bordick, the 14-year MLB veteran and Orioles Hall of Famer. I'm Jerry Coleman. We're up with brand new content every day on our podcast, X and Instagram and Facebook pages. Find us now at the Bmore Ball Pod and on YouTube. We want you to sign up on YouTube, Bmore Ball Pod. When you follow us on YouTube, you automatically qualify for a $50 gift card from Lido Pizza. We gave away 10 last week. We may be giving away more than 10 coming up, but you have to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. Again, at Bmore Ball Pod. Today in episode number 6, we'll be joined by Phillies and, of course, former Orioles coach Bobby Dickerson. I'll also have to explain why, well, a tweet I put out that went viral about free soda in the Orioles and ended up with over 1 million views. Well, it didn't go the way it was expected to go. We'll also discuss the return to mountain time as Felix Bautista is back on the bump and recovering from an injury. And speaking of injuries, that's where Colton Cowser is right now. We'll catch up with Dr. Michael Jacobs, former team physician for the Orioles, in our What's Up Doc segment and find out about Cowser's bad left thumb. But let's bring in our featured guests. They're all sponsored by Pappas Seafood. From crab cakes to seafood classics, they'll deliver straight to your door. 4 locations in the Baltimore area, plus nationwide shipping. Order today at pappascrabcakes.com. He is Phillies infield coach Bobby Dickerson. Bobby, first of all, thanks for taking the time and being with us here right in the middle of the season. You just had a game yesterday. Hopefully today you get some time to rest. But I wanted to ask you, starting off, is what is the role of an infield coach? I mean, you have some gold glovers. You've had platinum glove winners, or platinum glove winners, I should say. I didn't know platinum was a step above gold. So you've had the mix there. And I mean, when you're dealing with those type of guys, how much instruction is required?
Well, you'd be surprised, actually. A lot of it is just basically maintenance. But, you know, fortunately for me, I had chances to be with guys when they were young, and that's where you build your relationships and you grow with them and stuff. And then also what's been good for me is when I have joined new teams, my infielders may not necessarily have the reputation of being the best at their craft. So it's given me an opportunity to get in there and help them improve in their areas and you know, which has been a blessing for me in my career.
Well, I got to tell you something, Bobby, and I'll let the whole world know right now. Nobody works harder than a major league coach. I always thought I was the type of player that would show up early and be the last to leave, but it's the coaches that are there early. They're always preparing and always ready to go to do early work. And Bobby, you mentioned some younger guys, and when you were with the Orioles, you had maybe the 2 best young guys in baseball, and that of Manny Machado and Jonathan Scope, and you made them into elite defenders. I mean, and you went through a series of great teams, postseason teams, it seemed like every other year. Now that you've gone on to the Phillies, you got some veteran infielders, but you have a very young third baseman in Bohm. And is there a comparison there with Manny Machado and maybe Bohm at third base, and how you actually instructed those young guys?
Yeah, it's funny, you know, so I believe in, like I said before, getting your relationship going. And for me, I spent so many years in the minor leagues working with guys. And like you said, I had Manny and Scopey. But what was great for my personal career was I got to go to the big leagues with those guys. So now guys that I worked with all the way through the minor leagues, I get to the big leagues with them. Manny wins the platinum glove. Jonathan arguably should have gotten a gold glove here or there. Manny won another gold glove. I met J.J. Hardy. He wins a gold glove. He won before I got there. But I think the whole village did it. But the industry all of a sudden gives you a recognition, right? And my name became synonymous with Manny. It became part of, you know, hey, Bobby Dickerson helped Manny Machado. And now I go to San Diego. I get to work with Fernando Tatis Jr., who was the worst shortstop in baseball in 2019. And he, in a COVID short year, he was the best shortstop in baseball. And that's analytically, that's not me saying this. It's just the numbers said this. So I get a little more reputation. So now I come to the Phillies and I get to work with, you know, Trey Turner, who hasn't been known as a super defensive shortstop. He's been an offensive guy that plays shortstop. And I don't agree with that necessarily. I think he's a pretty solid player, but I have a reputation, and so it gives me an end. It builds my relationship for me, kind of gets me ahead of the game a little bit. So when I start offering things, I don't get turned off right away. And there's an art to that too, believe me, because you can get a guy to turn you off really quickly. And then, as you said, I get a couple young guys. Alec Bohm was on the brink of not becoming a major leaguer because, this was the day. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. The day he said, "I hate this place" in Philly, and he was booed, and he made 3 errors in the game, and his career was about to go the other way. So we went to ground level and went to work back to remind me back when I worked with Manny, just from very beginning, and talked about angles and talked about, some personal vices, like things that got him down out there, some confidence building stuff. And look, he's been a great player for us now. He does a great job over there. He's always going to be one step limited range wise. He's a big guy that's not real super quick twitch, but look, he plays third base and he gets his bat in the lineup, and he's not standing there getting his bat in the lineup. He does a nice job for us within his own self. So yeah, I mean, I think I got started there with him early in the mornings. Ours started that year when stuff went bad. It was at Philly. We went to third base that next day. And I still remember, I said, "Look, you may be a used car salesman." I remember the first thing I thought about it all night. I go, all these people, these 40,000 people that are booing you, these people have never stood out here and caught a ground ball. I said, I haven't never stood out here in this atmosphere. I only played up to AAA. And I told him some of the things that got me was the fact that at 1 o'clock, I could take a ground ball and be great. At 7 o'clock, it's a whole lot different. And I said, I can't tell you about those things. You got to figure those out for yourself. And I think he took that to heart. He knew I was going to fail with him. And we got closer, and I noticed he would watch me in the dugout a little more closely, somebody to go to throughout the game when things maybe got a little hairy, and, supported him through the bad times. And now in the good times, he's been great.
You talk about Bohm and Manny Machado working with Jonathan Scope, and I think it's one thing, and I've witnessed you, man. You build their respect, they trust you, and you're awesome at the detail of the movements in the game. Something that I've noticed that a lot of young infielders, especially here with the Orioles, that have had a hard time adjusting to is learning their internal clock. How do you get a young guy to balance that out and understand actually the speed and the urgency of the game at the major leagues?
Well, again, I don't know exactly my formula or what I do. I know myself and Ryan Flaherty were talking the other day, and Flash from being a Oriole, but we were talking, and he's pretty much stood side by side with me throughout all the time I've worked with guys. And we were just saying, I said, Flash, you pretty much know what I'm going to say next when I'm doing a session with a guy or doing some drills. And I said, but let me ask you this question. When I do that, even though you know it, could you do the same thing? And he said, no, it just won't come out the same. And I don't know how to put it. It's one of those things that, I've kind of been gifted, I guess, with a way to put a guy through a drill, create urgency in the drill, and create some type of failure mechanism. Like, okay, if you don't do it in this amount of time, you're going to fail at it, and you got to be able to do it in this amount of time, or you're not a big leaguer. And I don't know exactly what it is I do, but I try to put myself in there with them. There are drills I do. I do a clock drill at first base. I put a clock at first base so they see the time. But I really want them to feel the time because, look, we are so data-driven in this industry now, and I'm telling you, all the artists and the art teachers are getting pushed out. It's a shame because I know I'm an art teacher. I'm not a scientific teacher. I've never been. I believe in the human being and what we do. There's no way to define it. There's no way to define Mike Bordick, 14 years in the major leagues, non-drafted. How did that happen? If we're so scientific with numbers, how did this guy slip through the cracks? Oh, the argument would be because they didn't use data then. But I don't believe that. I believe that humans play this game, and it's so artistic, there's no way to define it. It's just, you can't explain why there's so many different batting stances and so many different a one-handed defender. The way Arenado defends at third base is one of the best I've ever seen. He does a lot of things that I wouldn't teach, but I would not touch this guy because he's a Picasso at third base.
Yeah, absolutely. The instincts are incredible in this game, and I think you do a great job of pulling that out. Go ahead, Jerry.
No, I just wanted to mention Machado and Bryce Harper. I mean, now you're dealing with Bryce. You've dealt with Manny in the past. I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you who's better, but do you have to treat them differently because of the level they're at when you try and talk with them or try and give them some advice, or do you treat them just like everyone else in the clubhouse?
Well, Bryce I had to treat differently because I didn't know Bryce from the beginning. So as I talked about, is building that relationship. But the advantage I had meeting Bryce was the fact that I had worked with Manny. So he knew I was there along with Manny's ride to the top. And my reputation or the respect was there. So Bryce immediately gave it to me when we went to work, and he was open to it. And fortunately for me, in 2019 and 22, I was here working with other infielders. So Bryce saw me on the half field doing my thing. So he would always sneak over there and try to take a few grounders with me back when he was a right fielder also. But yeah, I definitely treated Bryce a little bit differently at the beginning. But look, this guy is the ultimate professional. He definitely wants to be at the top of this game, which is, as Mike will tell you, it's always the best, because if you get that type of guy with ability, the sky's the limit, and he shows it. He's already become one of the better first basemen in just a year, and he's hard on himself. He's harder on himself than I would be, so I have to be careful of that also, as a coach.
More of the Bmore Baseball Podcast coming right up. At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com.
There are a lot of myths out there about how the Maryland lottery works. Playing the lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not. The facts are, all games have similar odds. You should never try to recover losses by taking more risks. And you shouldn't play the lottery when you're feeling stressed. But the biggest fact is, you should always play responsibly. Learn more facts and myths at mdlottery.com, and please play responsibly.
The Bmore Baseball Podcast welcomes Relief Shop. Shop, Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu, located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer, or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone, exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955, proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time. And now, back to the Bmore Baseball Podcast.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to go back in time a little bit, Bobby, because the Oriole fans know this moment in baseball history is one of the best ever. It was in game 2 of the playoffs back in 2014, and Orioles were down by 3, bases were loaded, and of course Delmon Young comes up with that pinch hit, and there you are running down the third baseline, arm are going, JJ Hardy. I thought you were going to beat him to home plate. It was a classic moment and one of the best really in Oriole history, and you guys went on to obviously win that series. What did that mean to you? And how about the postseason experience with the Orioles? Tell us about that.
Well, it's fun. Just 2 days ago, we were talking at Dusty Waltham and I were talking about coaching third base, and he's our guy, and he does a great job for us. It's the best send or moment ever in my career was that JJ Hardy send, and the ball trickled a little bit on JD Martinez off the left field wall. I remember it like yesterday. I couldn't hear anything happening In my mind, it was just a roar of a crowd that was amazing. And JJ, when he was 19, he could superfly. He was superfly snooker. He maybe lost one step here. You know what? Once he got underway, he was really getting it. And once I saw that little bobble, I was like, we're going to get this run. Let's go. And I always have a tendency to move down the line. I got letters from the league before I'm too far down the line. And but I just always believe that third base coach can kind of impact the game, impact the runner and things like that with energy. But it was unbelievable. It was an unbelievable moment in my life, and I'll never forget it. Orioles fans
won't either. Yeah, Orioles fans won't either.
So
that's for sure.
I remember they had the little sound meter at the dugout, and it was crazy. So it was a wonderful time. Yeah, for sure.
Hey, any influences on you, Bobby? Now, I know you've been in the game forever. You've experienced the highs and lows. You've been around unbelievable players and I think great coaches and managers as well. Have there been a couple people that have influenced you, or you just take a little bit from everybody along the way?
I think we learned – well, yeah, I think I learned both what to do and what not to do from people, honestly. I was fortunate to do a lot of different jobs in the minor leagues. I was field coordinator, pretty much almost running a minor league system for a year and a half or so in Arizona, and managed up to AAA. I managed winter ball. I've coached third. I've roved in as a roving infield instructor, so I know what the managers are going through. I think that gave me a perspective on everyone doing their job. And so as I watched different men do the jobs that I had done before or yet to do, I saw things that maybe I wouldn't do that, or I would do this, or I think the players aren't buying into that. And but ultimately, probably when it comes to managing and understanding the game and watching the game in a certain way, probably Buck Showalter, honestly. I signed with the Yankees in '87, and I went straight to play. And a good friend of yours, Brian Butterfield, was my coach. And probably Brian Butterfield was the other guy as a coach, as an infield guy. Brian Butterfield was a big impact in my life. I still do things that he did with me back then in the 80s. And then when I went to Buck, and after a couple of weeks of being with Brian, I went to Buck, and I was with Buck for the next 3 years in the minor leagues. And I go, what a blessing for a young player like myself that really, I love the game, and I love the inners and out, the way it works and the art of it. And having a guy like Buck talking baseball every day for 3 years. So it was awesome. And then another name I'll mention is Jerry Narin. I played for Jerry Narin as a manager. He taught me more of the human relationship. I mean, he made me want to run through a wall for him. It was amazing how he managed all of the guys, and especially me. He got me, and I would do anything for that guy still to this day.
Bobby, I got to ask you, it's the fad around baseball until MLB outlaws it. Have the Phillies started to order those torpedo bats yet?
We saw a couple yesterday. I think Alec Bohm used one in the game yesterday, and I think he got one single, so I don't know if he'll use it again. But we know how it's not the arrow, it's the Indian, right? No SF Fletcher. Yeah. I think when things happen, everybody wants to buy into it, and I go back to the artist, man. You give that artist a good paintbrush. He may have a favorite one, but he can use a paintbrush for sure.
Do you think the bats are going to remain legal?
You could read the rule on it and probably say it may get outlawed, but there's always ways when it comes to making money and selling devices and all that. Hey, they'll make it work somehow. Somebody's making some money on it.
Absolutely.
For sure.
No doubt about that.
Bobby, do you have any aspirations to manage in the big leagues? Because I just think you'd be a great manager. You're incredibly intelligent. Like you said, you've seen every part of the game, inside and out. You develop relationships with players. And I think you have a great feel for the analytics and that artistic side of the game. Just a great balance. Managing in your future?
Well, I think I made a run at it because, I didn't want to get stuck as a guy that just gets labeled as an infield coach. Ron Washington had that stigma a little bit, and he got an opportunity to manage. Brian Butterfield, as I mentioned, one of the greatest infield coaches that our game has had. And I like to think of myself as a baseball person, not just an infield coach, but I've made my name in the industry as an infield coach and a defensive guy. But I just think at this point in my career, I would love the opportunity to, but I think at this point in my career, the way the interview process goes with the people that get chosen, I'm never going to find myself on that list. And not that I've given up on it. I'm a realist. If you notice, when I was in Baltimore coaching third, at the end of the season, I went to managing winter ball because I wanted to put it out there that I had aspirations. So I managed in winter ball a couple of years. As recently as 2018, I went to Mexico and managed in winter ball. So I did those things to try to, one, stay up on the managing other people for 25 guys plus the coaching staff plus all the stuff that goes with it. It's a lot going on, dealing with me and all that stuff. Just to not lose any of that or try to even improve in some of that stuff. But, kind of settled in on my career right now. And, if that opportunity came calling, I'm sure I'd be interested in it. But, and you're right. I do have a feel for analytics, and I do welcome all information. That's what an art teacher, people, he just anti-analytics, Buck Showalter in the Orioles in the 80s. In the 2000s, no, they didn't. That's not even close to true. Buck Showalter wanted information more than anybody I've ever worked for. He's amazing at he wanted to know, what time the grass started growing, and was there a way we can make it better? Crazy. And the guy was on top of everything. So, we just didn't have it, and we just believe, hey, look, help us with the information, and when it comes to the art part, we got that part.
Last thing for you. I don't see the Phillies scheduled to come to Camden Yards this season. Last year, you guys came into town and brought all your fans with you. There were a couple of sellouts here. But I see the O's are coming to Philly in August. So we'll see how many Oriole fans squeeze their way into Citizens Bank Park. That'll be tough.
Yeah. I remember when we were with the Orioles, when we first got there, when the Red Sox and Yankees would come down, the stadium would be, red or navy blue. And it was amazing. And then by the time we left there, they couldn't get a seat. And that was so awesome to see the orange come out. And we got better and did great baseball for a 5-year span there and won the most games in the American League in that period. And the fans responded and came out and supported us. And it was so awesome to see those poor Yankee people not be able to get a seat.
What a shame. What a shame. Hey, Bobby, it's game day or getting close to game day. We appreciate you again being here on the podcast. It's our pleasure to have you. And best of luck to you and the Phillies, except for those 3 games against the Orioles. We can't endorse that.
Yeah. Thanks, Bobby D.
All right. I appreciate you guys having me.
All right, you're the best.
Take a swing at a healthier mouth and a better-looking smile with my dental team at Catonsville Dental Care. Catonsville Dental Care is a winning team of caring dental professionals who treat you like family. You will love their clean, friendly office, where your comfort and care are their top priorities. Catonsville Dental Care has more than 2,000 5-star Google reviews and received many awards, such as Top Dentist and Top Workplace. Catonsville Dental Care accepts most insurances and offers convenient hours, before or after work, and some Saturdays, too. Mention the Jerry Special for your $149 new patient visit or receive $500 off your Invisalign treatment. So get off the bench. Call Catonsville Dental Care today. At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com.
There are a lot of myths out there about how the Maryland lottery works. Playing the lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not. The facts are, all games have similar odds. You should never try to recover losses by taking more risks. And you shouldn't play the lottery when you're feeling stressed. But the biggest fact is, you should always play responsibly. Learn more facts and myths at mdlottery.com, and please play responsibly.
The Bmore Baseball Podcast welcomes Relief Shop. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu, located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer. Or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone. Exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955. Proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. At Heller Coates, we ensure peace of mind. Our mission, to educate, design, and protect, ensuring that you get the right insurance at the right price. Whether it's home and auto, life, disability, long-term care, or employee benefits, our deep understanding of personal and business life cycles allows us to tailor solutions just for you. We specialize in strategic insurance planning for those who value protection. Ready to take the next step? Get in touch for no obligation 360 policy review at insurance@hellercoates.com.
Bobby Dickerson joining us here on the podcast, a guy that you know on and off the field, and what a career he's had, Bordy.
It's been incredible, and he is a true baseball guy. The epitome of what baseball players are all about, grinding. He grinded through the minor leagues. He made the most of his opportunities. Like you said, he learned from everybody, some of the best in the business. And if you ask me, he's the best infield coach in the game right now, and maybe one of the best baseball minds. He just has a great sense, a keen sense of how to develop relationships with players and get the most out of them. Big fan of Bobby Dickerson, and I hope he does get the opportunity to manage one day.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to For the Birds, which is sponsored by the Maryland Lottery. Hey, playing the Maryland Lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not about your favorite games. Learn the facts and myths at mdlottery.com. That's mdlottery.com, and please play responsibly. All right, the return to Mountain Time. We saw him in Toronto, his first game since August of 2023. Felix Bautista came out and struck out 3 against the Blue Jays. Then he got a roaring ovation on opening day, Bordy. It was a shaky outing, but he's starting to touch close to 98, 99 miles per hour on the gun. Yeah. How much higher can he take it at this juncture?
Well, maybe not next week he's going to hit 100, but he'll hit 100. I just think there's going to be inconsistencies along the way, like what we saw in yesterday's performance. Yeah, sure, there was a lot of adrenaline going. I think the fans truly appreciated what he did a couple years ago when he was arguably the MVP. If he would have stayed healthy, it would have been really interesting to see who got MVP that year, because he was the most dominant pitcher in baseball, just bar none. It was almost like that Zach Britton run he had when he was so elite. So it was fun to watch him go. And it's, happy to see he's healthy. Shoot, just hitting 97, 98, I think is pretty impressive. When we talked to Doc Jacobs a couple weeks ago about Bautista, the velocity is going to be down a little bit. There's going to be inconsistencies with command. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. And I think Brandon Hyde and the Orioles understand that and are putting him in these situations right now so he can just kind of get back to acclimatize himself, get back to being on the mound in those high leverage situations. Actually, they've been low leverage situations, but just to reintroduce himself to the big leagues again and try to get that under his belt. And I'm sure as the season progresses, Brandon Hyde's not going to be scared to put him in those higher leverage situations.
Totally agree. And it was great to hear Omar's whistle back playing at Camden Yards once again after it had been off all of 2024. So Mountain Time is back playing big on the on the bump, no doubt about it. Now, I need to address this social media snafu that occurred since our last podcast. So last Saturday, the Orioles had this Utah Street affair where they invited fans in, and Birdland members first came into the ballpark. And you were out there signing autographs and kissing babies and, hugging fans and, just smiles everywhere. It was a beautiful, warm day. I mean, just like opening day was. But I noticed coming in that fans were being handed cups, okay? So I'm walking through the concourse at Camden Yards, and I see, and I think we have a picture of it, the soda dispenser, okay? And I see people in line for soda. I don't see anyone there, and it looks like they're just helping themselves to free soda. So I put out a tweet that said, underplayed at Camden Yards this year, and I put capital free soda. Now, it took about 15 minutes before this thing went viral. And sometimes things don't appear as they are. So I would say about 50,000 views in the first 15 minutes. Then about half hour later, we're closing in on well over 100,000 views when I get a text from an Orioles PR person letting me know, hey, Jerry, just so you know, this is a capital refillable machine. This is not for free soda. These are for Birdland members who pay $4 to buy a cup, and then you get all the soda you want during that game. Now, I'm going to say this. The Orioles told me that it's just for Birdland members, and I was out there as an intrepid reporter on opening day watching this refill station and how it works. And I noticed there was like a hall monitor, like back in school, watching everything. So they do have a representative that's watching over everything. And I put out a correction tweet. Here's the thing about X and what a cesspool it is. The first tweet I put out got over 1.3 million views, which is incredible. The correctable tweet that I put out subsequently, that got about 8,000 views. So everyone just goes with the whole story. But they have raised food prices, and this is a way to pay back the loyal fans, the Birdland Club members, by giving them this cup. But who's to say that people, and I don't know who these people are, but they could be buying these souvenir cups for $11.25, bringing it home, putting it in the dishwasher, and then returning to the yard the next day with a cup. How are you going to notice the difference? I'm going to be curious to see what soda sales are at Camden Yards going forward. That's what I'm going to be curious about. So I'm sorry if I misled a couple of million people about free soda, but it's all good. When you go to the ballpark, you'll find out it's not completely free unless you have your own cup, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if this one's endorsed by the American Heart Association or not.
Or the American Diabetes Association.
Or the Diabetes Association. But I will say this. Might help wash down that Lido's pizza if you get that $50 gift card. That's for sure.
That's a good point. That's the best way to wash it down. But we know you stay away from most soda anyway. You're a health nut.
Yeah.
All right, let's venture. Yeah. We venture beyond Baltimore, our national and sometimes international perspective. It's all brought to you by our friends over at Relief Shop, Baltimore's best adult use and medical cannabis dispensary. 700 plus unique menu items and home delivery available, same day home delivery available for medical patients, courtesy of Relief. This Dodgers hot start, we would only be wrong in saying we didn't see it coming. But I say half jokingly, is this team going to lose a series all season, Bordy, even without Ohtani ready to pitch?
You know, it's interesting you say that. And because just recently, us Oriole fans saw an incredible streak by the Orioles where they didn't lose a series for 106 series. And I'm starting to think, I know they're going to lose sometime along the way. It seems like it. But who's going to beat them in a 3-game series? It's going to be really hard. I expect them to go on a run. And Ohtani, hasn't even taken the bump. So he's going to be a nice second half addition to this rotation. They've got some guys that are healthy now. Glasnow had a great game. And just an interesting side note about the Dodgers, and I know we're going to be talking to the doc pretty soon, but Glasnow, I read an article about his performance, and he said he's getting away from the weighted ball because he wants to stay in the game longer. So pitchers who use the weighted ball, it seems like it's leading some injuries. He said, I'm going old school, and I'm just going to do long toss. Let's see how that one goes.
Yeah, I mean, They are stacked. That's all
They
I'm
are
going to
stacked.
say. And we knew that before the season started. They're the defending world champions for a reason, but they're the team that everyone's going to hate this year outside of the Yankees. All right. They're on the other side of town. You have Mike Trout. And Mike Trout plays for the JV in Los Angeles. They're called the Angels. But is Mike Trout going to ever play for a winner, Bordy? I mean, he's 34. The Angels seem to be going nowhere in a hurry at this point.
Yeah, it breaks my heart because, best player in the game, hands down for, I don't know, I guess 5 or 6 years in a row where it seemed like his WAR was like up over 10. So get 10 wins just for the one player. Pretty impressive stuff. They tried. They've tried for years. They coupled him with Pujols. They sent him out there. Next thing you know, they sent Ohtani out there. And they really tried to build a winner around Mike Trout. And unfortunately, it hasn't happened. And the injury bug has kind of caught up to him. They've moved him to right field to try to, increase his playing time and limit injury. Let's not forget last season, his start to the season, he had like 10 home runs in 20 games. And there's like,
he gets hurt again.
Yeah, he's back and then he gets hurt again. So I think monitoring him and keeping on the field is going to be really important. My hope, now his contract, he's still under contract till 2030. He's got an absolute no trade clause, but I would think inside he would want an opportunity to hoist that trophy. It doesn't look like the Angels are going to anytime soon. He's from the East Coast. There's been speculation maybe the Phillies love the big hairy guys. We just had Bobby Dickerson on. Yeah. I think that might be a perfect fit for him. The Phillies, like year after year, are much like the Dodgers, thinking they're going to be in the postseason in the World Series. So that might be a nice fit. And I think baseball would love to see Mike Trout hold a World Series trophy.
Yeah, that's home for him, Philly. He's an Eagles fan. So we'll see if he ends up there. That wouldn't be good news for the rest of the NL East, that's for sure. All right, let's get to What's Up, Doc. What's Up, Doc is sponsored by the Baltimore Chamber Orchestra. Hear Baltimore's second orchestra perform at 3 p.m. on Sunday, May 11th at Goucher College. Visit the bco.org to buy tickets and learn a lot more. All right, Bordy, the floor is yours.
Oh, my gosh, Doc. Colton Cowser diving headfirst into first base. First of all, something I learned in Little League, don't dive headfirst into first base. I appreciate the aggressiveness and things like that, but specifically to you, Doc, hand injuries. He broke the same hand last year, goes in and breaks his thumb this year. I mean, what are your concerns there? Could he possibly get arthritic early? And is this going to limit him and the rest of his career?
Well, we've tried to tell players not to slide hand first. A couple years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I recommended to the Orioles that they make everybody wear sliding gloves on the bases. That, of course, would not have helped Cowser. And they really didn't follow up on that. I remember seeing Ohtani for something trivial, and he had hurt his hand. He had a big protective glove when he batted, and I recommended to the Orioles that they make all their hitters wear the padded batting gloves, and they didn't do that. And shortly after that, Westberg broke his hand down in Norfolk, then he broke it again up here. So their answer kind of is, well, they don't like to wear them, and you kind of wonder who's the boss and who's not the boss. I don't know of any studies that suggest that sliding head first is faster to the bag than sliding foot first. Maybe you know that. I don't. Obviously, Pete Rose is the epitome of sliding head first. When you get to Cowser, it's really, to me, probably not that big a deal. While I don't know the x-rays on Cowser's fractures either last year or this year, they did put in the paper, or Cowser said something that last year, that they put a plate in his hand. And you got to remember, bones have a shaft and then they have ends. And the ends are where the joints are, and that's where you get arthritis. If you crack the shaft, like you get hit with the ball right in the shaft, and it heals with or without a plate, it probably doesn't change your performance. If you get your hand smashed, like Sabathia did to, oh my God,
Markakis.
Yeah,
he just smashed his joint, and he was never the same. And you can even ask him that tomorrow, and whether or not that was intentional or not, that's a whole nother issue.
Well, don't give away next week's podcast yet, Doc.
But that having been said, when you affect a joint, it does affect your hand strength and your mobility. This particular injury, since again, I haven't seen the studies, but he's in a cast or a splint. They're not talking about surgery. I don't think he's gone for second opinions. So it makes me think that this injury is kind of a non-displaced, minimal injury of the shaft of the bone as opposed to the joint. So it makes me think in the long term, it shouldn't be an issue. Having said that, I've said this many times on various presentations and shows. I love the Frank Robinson line. And if you met Frank, I gather outside of Willie Mays, he had probably the strongest hands in baseball. And when he shook my hand, I didn't think I was getting it back when he was messing with me a little. We had Jeffrey Hammonds, somebody who we actually drafted 2 slots ahead of Jeter. And Jeffrey was kind of an aluminum bat wonder from college. And when he broke his hand, it hurt just hurt his wrist. He couldn't hit because he was kind of a hands hitter. And Frank was talking to me about it. And Frank's line was, Doc, you can't hit if your hands or your wrist hurt. And it's hard to swing a bat, even though they're getting lighter and better balanced. But even though this injury to Cowser did not affect his joint, more likely than not, his hand will still be sore. And I will say, of all the rookie players I examined over 30 years, Cowser has the strongest hands of any of them. I remember when I met him and Elias called me about him, I said, he's got the strongest hands I've seen. And I always thought he'd be a solid hitter because of that. And if you watch him hit, he really doesn't take a giant Rushman kind of swing. And he takes advantage of that with his strong hands. So I think in the long run, he'll be fine. But I do think his hands will be sore for a while. And even if he comes back at 8 weeks, he probably won't have the same power until that soreness goes away. So I think long term, assuming this is outside the joint, he's fine. Short term, you can't hit if your hands hurt. And that'll take a while for them to figure out what to do, particularly if Kirsten is playing well.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
And since they're both left-handed, that's, you can't really platoon them.
Yeah. I did want to ask you about another injury inside the clubhouse, and that's Albert Suarez. He's on the 15-day IL, retroactive to last Saturday. I guess that explains the decrease in his velocity. He's 35 years old, but we saw that in his season debut. Shoulder inflammation this early in the season, is that common, Doc?
It's variable, as you know. Everybody's different. Obviously, somebody trying to be the last guy on the squad is going to push harder in spring training. It happened a fair amount when we had World Baseball and guys were really starting early. I looked up Albert's numbers, and some of them are a little mysterious because he played a bunch of years in Asia, and we don't have all the data on that. But as far as I can tell, he's never had shoulder or elbow surgery. I think the thing that stood out for me is early in his career when he was drafted, he was kind of a reliever pitching 60, 70 innings a game. He went to Japan. I'm not exactly sure what he did over there, and I think even Korea. But when he came back in 22, he threw 173 innings. In 23 with us, he threw 108 innings. In 24, he threw 133 innings. So it looks like later in his career, he's kind of converted from a short inning reliever to kind of, Mike, the kind of mop-up guy who you throw in blowouts or in gimme games where you just want to get a couple more innings out of him to save your bullpen. And it may be that these extra innings he's taken in the last 3 years have taken a bit of a toll on him. And it may also be that in spring training, he probably figured he was fighting with Povich for that last starting job. So he might have tried to push it a little harder. But we haven't heard about MRIs being done. We haven't heard about him being injected. He has a history of durability. So I would think that if this was anything more sinister than a little overuse syndrome, we'd be hearing that. So we'll see. But I talked to Mike about this in the past. In the 30 years I've done this, when sports medicine went from being a joke, when I graduated in '85, sports medicine was where you went when you didn't know what else to do with yourself. It was like a joke, and now it's like rocket science. For all the science and the spinning and the doctors promoting themselves, nothing has changed. It's still the same morons kind of way to do it. When the pitcher is out, he gets rested, he gets a cortisone shot, or he gets surgery. Okay, it's just like it was in 1985. Okay, so he's got rest, he's got an injection, and he's not going for surgery. So he'll probably get away with rest, a cortisone shot, and some therapy by the great training staff we have. And he'll probably come back, and perhaps they won't abuse is a word I don't want to use, but they won't let him throw those extra couple innings when you don't have to. I remember we did that to Mark Eichhorn way back in the 80s, who was going gangbusters. And we had a game where he just kept pitching well and went into extra innings. And he ended up throwing something like 75 pitches. He couldn't pitch the rest of the year.
Oh.
It kind of ended his year back in June. And it was like, can you do another inning, guy? And he said, sure. And that was the end of his year. So you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. But I don't suspect this will be anything major unless we hear about MRIs going down or cortisone shots.
All right, good stuff from the doc, brought to us by the Baltimore Chamber Orchestra every week here on the Bmore Baseball Podcast. Want to thank bco.org and all our sponsors out there. We see your Heller and Kowitz. We see your support.
Take a swing at a healthier mouth and a better-looking smile with my dental team at Catonsville Dental Care. Catonsville Dental Care is a winning team of caring dental professionals who treat you like family. You will love their clean, friendly office where your comfort and care are their top priorities. Catonsville Dental Care has more than 2,000 five-star Google reviews and received many awards, such as Top Dentist and Top Workplace. Catonsville Dental Care accepts most insurances and offers convenient hours before or after work, and some Saturdays too. Mention the Jerry Special for your $149 new patient visit or receive $500 off your Invisalign treatment. So get off the bench. Call Catonsville Dental Care today.
There are a lot of myths out there about how the Maryland lottery works. Playing the lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not. The facts are, all games have similar odds. You should never try to recover losses by taking more risks. And you shouldn't play the lottery when you're feeling stressed. But the biggest fact is, you should always play responsibly. Learn more facts and myths at mdlottery.com, and please play responsibly.
At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. The Bmore Baseball Podcast welcomes Relief Shop. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer, or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone, exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955, proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. At Heller Kowitz, we ensure peace of mind. Our mission, to educate, design, and protect, ensuring that you get the right insurance at the right price. Whether it's home and auto, life, disability, long-term care, or employee benefits, our deep understanding of personal and business life cycles allows us to tailor solutions just for you. We specialize in strategic insurance planning for those who value protection. Ready to take the next step? Get in touch for a no-obligation 360 policy review at insurance@hellerkowitz.com.
Thanks to senior executive producer Chip Franklin for putting this latest episode together. Chip has never had the coronavirus, but he can't stop drinking the beer for some reason. I can't. There's a live look at Chip at his home right now, looking for a corona. Until next time, be kind, be real, and make sure to be back next week for another great guest right here only on the Bmore Baseball Podcast.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.